God, God bless you and greetings to our Love Gospel Assembly family here in the good old Bronx. We bless you and we greet also anyone who perhaps may have just stumbled across this, what we call a nugget of hope. And I pray that it may be just that to those that are watching on. Truth from God's Word that brings hope, that brings encouragement, gives us strength to continue to live as God has called us to live. Our theme for this season is called Wisdom from the Proverbs. Wisdom in Proverbs says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And wisdom in Proverbs has its origin in God, is God-centered, and its sayings offer the key to living a life that truly honors God. And when it honors God, then any life that honors God blesses men. And so it is a book about divine wisdom. It's truth, what they say is truth offered up in pithy maxims, they call it, or pithy meaning they're full of meaning. You know, you have to read them sometimes a few times to find the substance of them, but they're full of meaning, and they offer the rule of conduct for us to live righteously before the Lord. Like Chuck Swindoll states that he calls them, they're capsules of truth. And Derek Kindle, in his Tyndale's commentary, says of Proverbs that it is a course in education in the life of wisdom. A course in education in the life of wisdom. I like that meaning. And I'm looking at today briefly Proverbs 21:1, which says in the King James, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whatsoever he willeth. And in the New American Standard, it says that the king's heart is like channels of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he wishes. And in the Contemporary English Bible, it says that the Lord controls rulers, just as he determines the course of rivers. Proverbs 21:1 is what is called, they call it a comparative couplet. It's a saying where something is compared to something else, where two ideas are placed alongside of each other, and they complement each other in telling a particular truth. So if you look at here in the Hebrew, it's important to note that in the Hebrew, this proverb doesn't begin with the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, but begins with like channels of water, the heart of the king is in the hands of Yahweh. This is in reference, if you look here, you can see briefly that this is in reference to the irrigation canals that were used with all their twists and turns that you can see in this picture to bring water from its main source to the fields. The farmer controlled the intensity and the direction of the flow of the water to his field. So this simple proverb informs us of a profound truth, that God holds and directs the heart of the king in the same way the farmer directs the water through the irrigation canals he made. In other words, God is sovereign and ultimately in control of all things, including the affairs of man. I asked myself this question: why does Solomon say the king's heart and not say every heart? After all, God knows the heart of all men, and the Bible teaches that everything as he created is under his control. So, but it's letting us know that if God can control the heart of the most powerful man in the land, which was the king, the sovereign, the monarch, the one who held his position for life. He was the chief authority over the country and the people. His word was law. His commandments could not be violated. And so what Swindoll says in reference to it is this: the king's heart, his inner being, that which possesses his will, his feelings, are in God's, that internal part of him that makes decisions, that breathes out and communicates attitudes and policies, edicts and laws, that those are in the hands of the Lord. So as a result, he says, he may appear to be in charge, the king may appear to be in charge, but the entire matter from start to finish silently and sovereignly rests in the Lord's hands. God is the one that ultimately is in control. 1 Chronicles 29:11 says it this way: yours is the mighty power and glory and victory and majesty. Everything in the heavens and the earth is yours, Lord, and this is your kingdom. We adore you as being in control of everything, Another commentator called Watley says this: God's inscrutable mastery extends to the king, the most powerful of human beings, and to their heart, their most free member. The Lord rules even the most free and powerful of all human beings. And I love this is what I found that R.C. Sproul states. He says, if God is not sovereign, then God is not God. Yeah. So God is the creator and the controller of the universe and all that is in it, visible and invisible. So any use or disposition he chooses to make of any part of his creation is his sovereign right. God is accountable only to himself. He reports to nobody. He's not required at any time to give to any person any explanation for anything he says or does. This Bible verse affirms the sovereignty of God. This means that God has complete authority and control, like we said, over all the affairs of men and every aspect of the universe. Now, this fact I know disturbs a lot of us, a lot of men, especially men, fallen men that don't know the Lord. They have the right to live like whichever they want, to live any way they wish, and that their lives and their destiny is in their hands, controlled by nobody. Don't tell me what to do. But many times also those that know the Lord have a problem with this truth, the sovereignty of God. You can ask Jonah about that. Okay? And the key thing with this truth, as we look at the sovereignty of God in this proverb, the truth does not this truth does not interfere with human responsibility or our wills. Though God has absolute control over all the workings of our minds and hearts, yet we are conscious that we are free to choose our words and actions. But God's sovereignty is still in operation within our free will. But his will triumph. You can ask Esther. Esther, who came into the kingdom by the sovereign hand of God, where the king at that time of Persia removed his wife that refused to listen to take orders from him, and you guys know the story. But Mordecai, her uncle, advises her once she gets into the realm where she has that influence with the king, where now there is an enemy that threatens to kill, destroy totally the Jewish people. He goes to her and says, listen, you got to get in touch with the king, because this is what's on the board to happen. And she says, no, I can't. He hasn't called me in a bit. If I go in there now without his calling me, I can be killed. And so Mordecai tells her, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, the sovereignty of God. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And I like the analogy that David Guzik, another preacher, says this: if one can shape the banks and guide the direction of the river, the water will go where desired. So God does not need to do violence to the human heart or to the human will. He may do it simply through arranging other circumstances, like banks of a river, to guide the flow where he wants it to go. The Lord turns it. The Lord bends it with circumstances that he allows to come in silently but sovereignly. Twists of fate. Sometimes we can call them twists of fate or bad luck. But it's God moving. It's God working. Okay? Ross, another commentator, says, as a farmer channels the water where he wants it and regulates its flow, so does the Lord with the king. No human ruler then is supreme, or to put it another way, the Lord is truly King of Kings. And I love the example of in Daniel of Nebuchadnezzar. He was the king of Babylon, and who besieges and devastates Jerusalem and the people of God and brings them back to Babylon. And it shows in the story, Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful man in the land, he exalts himself to a place of greatness above God. Yet God says this: I will summon all the peoples of the north, and he calls them, and my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He calls Nebuchadnezzar his servant. And in the end, after the Lord punishes him and deals with him, when Nebuchadnezzar receives that discipline and he comes out of it, he says this: at the end of the time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and my sanity was restored. Then I praised the Most High. I honored and glorified him who lives forever. His dominion is eternal dominion. His kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the peoples of the earth are regarded as nothing. He does as he pleases with the powers of heaven and the peoples of the earth. No one can hold back his hand or say to him, what have you done? God is sovereign. And so, I guess in light of application, within the past few years, there's been an increase in our country in crime and violence, the spike in murders, the mass murders, the social and political unrest in our nation and in our world have many in fear, hopeless of our future. The future of our children and our grandchildren are held in the balance also. There's despair, there's anxiety, there's confusion. We can't make sense of what's going on. Everybody's asking what's happening. There's no sane solutions by those who lead. And there's a great unrest between the nations. North Korea, we talk about Russia, China, what's going on, nuclear threats, religious terrorism, the weather patterns that are happening. And the question that is being asked based on the realities in which we live in is, what's going on, and is who's in control here? It seems like the leaders have no answer. So this verse informs us and should be a comfort to us who believe that yes, God is God and he is in control. The universe was made by him, it is sustained by him, and it is entirely dependent on him. And God's will will be done, because he is the sovereign God, and that should bring us comfort, that should bring us peace, that should bring us encouragement, knowing that he holds the whole wide world in his hands, and he knows what he's doing. God bless you.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Nuggets of Hope. We hope you continue to join us, and we hope that you are blessed by each teaching. You can join us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. God bless you.